Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blond, and this is episode 15, season 2 of the Overrated Experience. And we are knee-deep into NFL football. And wow, even if you're looking at NFL football, we have the kickoff to the NBA season tonight. Also, what do the NHL call it? Every team in action, 16 games staggered, frozen frenzy, where you know that tonight's NHL action is catered to the sports bettor, let's say, the one who likes to put a few toonies and loonies on the action. So the awesome time of betting around this time of year. But this is a focal point. It's going to be NFL, and picks against the spread. And for those who are returning from listening on a weekly basis, thank you very much. I'm hoping you're making some money. I'm hoping you're making some good picks. I'm hoping you're budgeting, hoping your bankroll is where it needs to be and where you wanted it to be and what you planned it to be. And thank you again for joining us and supporting the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. And to those who are new, this is a sports betting podcast. The average Joe and me and guests and people over time that join us are average day Joes or Joettes, I guess you call that if we're talking about the ladies out there, that look at sports betting for fun. We bet by emotion, learn to be better bettors, trying to find our way and to maintain our bankrolls. And you're going to notice that we're going to focus on the NFL because that is the top bet sport. And we're going to do that. That doesn't mean you're not going to see podcasts that talk about sports in general, sports topics, sports betting on other action, whether it be soccer, hockey, baseball, golf even, UFC. We do everything here because we love sports. And sports betting is a big part of that. So for those who are here for the NFL action, I'm going to do a quick recap of what happened in the NFL. But I'm also going to recap the social media side of the business, and that is you can follow the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast, and that is at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. It's also listed in the pod by a simple click. You'll be able to follow on X everything I have to say, every thought about any sporting event that I want to talk about. You'll see it there. Instagram, Facebook also there. Links are there available. Please join us. Let's grow this thing. So going into week 7, I'm not going to lie. I got my ass kicked in week 7. I came into week 7 thinking, man, there's a lot of uncertainty here. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are down, a lot of injuries that how serious are they? Are they being reported? A lot of teams on the road that have looked good over 6 weeks. Heading into week 7, what would they look like against certain matchups? You know what? If anybody talks about, there are grinders out there, there are professionals out there that do a far better job than I, and maybe we're listening to me for entertainment purposes. I'm a pretty funny guy and very entertaining and very soft on the ears. However, a lot of this stuff is hard to really predict, and I got to respect anybody who can actually legitimately pick against the spread or props and or over-unders and make actual income that supports their day-to-day lives and pays the mortgage. I have due respect to you. If you've done that over time, I want to be there. However, I'm not there. I'll tell you that right now based on what happened on week 7. And I want to talk about a few items that came across out of the news that happened in the NFL. Now, we kicked off the Thursday nighter, and I was all in on the New Orleans Saints. They were a -3 at the time I did the podcast. It went down to -1.5. Some books had it at 2. I think some books had it at 1. No, actually, I picked it up at -1, actually, even though I called it out at -3. I felt comfortable taking the New Orleans Saints based on what we were hearing about Trevor Lawrence and that bum knee of his and the mobility that he was lacking. And right up to game time, or at least game day, there was question if he would play. And then it was thought, okay, he's going. I felt confident. I got the spread at 1. Excuse me. The Saints, at home against a quarterback that, really coming off a great victory in London. London. Actually, both games in London. However, shaky with the knee, and Trevor Lawrence needing to be out of the pocket is a big part of his game. And guess what? That injury report was garbage because, Trevor Lawrence ran for 59 yards, significant first downs. He was rolling like there was no injury. Yes, he was taped up, but he had no issues moving the ball. And if that piece of information was that his injury was nothing to be concerned about, there's no goddamn way I would have taken Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was a piece of garbage information. Derek Carr looks horrible as a quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. That team looks off-kiltered. I've talked about this in the previous podcast. By week 7, there should be no continuous issues throughout the game of being on different pages. There was a set play where, Olave is going down the field. He stops. Derek Carr throws him. And there's a lot of plays like that where he's double clutching, triple clutching, not making a quick decision. He's late on the throw. He does not look like a seasoned veteran quarterback. He looks like a quarterback that is nearing the end of his career, and that the Saints made a mistake of signing him to a big contract, which they did. Now, what I will say is I did think that because of the talent that the Saints had, I thought Derek Carr was the right guy for it, but he is not fitting in to the team he has in front of him. So I don't know what's going on with him, but he looks like he's on the back nine, if not the final 2 holes of his career in the NFL. And I don't expect him to be lasting much longer. I got to imagine Jameson Winston or Taysom Hill plays more of a role than that's happening today. Moving on, disgusting display by the Buffalo Bills. I know they're injury-riddled on the defensive side of the ball, but there is zero excuse to be outscored by the New England Patriots, the current version of the New England Patriots. They lost 29-25, and the Patriots pretty much controlled the scoreboard for the entire game. Josh Allen throws a pick on the first play of the game, and you let Mac Jones march down the field. They only need a field goal to tie the game and potentially go to overtime, but you allow them to get in the red zone with enough time to, get off 3 to 4 plays, first and goal. And just, I don't know what the Bills are. I don't know what it seems like they're destroying teams when they, play the Raiders and Commanders, which you would expect them to. But the Patriots are a team they should have rolled over easily. I know Bill Belichick has a game here, a game there, where he can shut down the key weapons like he did against Tyreek Hill, and a big win over the and a loss to the Miami Dolphins. And also he, kind of shut down Stephon Diggs. Really wasn't as factor as he normally is. But no excuse. The Buffalo Bills have to do something different on the offensive side of the ball. What they're doing is not working. And if they want to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs and Cincinnati Bengals, they're in trouble and need to do something different. But at the same time, you have a Miami Dolphins team that is on the rise and may take that division, which I'm going to say they will. And it's going to be a further hill to climb for the Buffalo Bills. Not good enough, Buffalo. You really screwed me, by the way, in a live play bet. So screw off, Buffalo. Detroit, absolutely destroyed. Destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this is what confuses me as a sports bettor, and the idea of trying to use past performance, trending, to predict what the outcome is going to be. I walked into this game very confident that Detroit would make a game of this. Detroit would come in and at least keep it close going into the fourth quarter, if not outright win this game. But when you're looking at the ticker, you're going about your daily business and following this game, and all you see is Baltimore marching down the field and knowing you just lost a bushel of money when Baltimore couldn't do the same thing against Pittsburgh, and Lamar Jackson has been okay, but he wasn't Lamar Jackson of this Sunday where he absolutely destroyed and was on all firing all guns against the Detroit Lions, who couldn't stop anything. Jared Goff could not get going. Early on, the Lions' offense was nothing compared to the previous weeks that they've been out there and showing us. So I don't know what the hell happened in this game. One team looks like they're like Super Bowl contenders, while the other team is taking 3 steps back. Totally different what we've seen from each of these teams over the sampling size over the past few weeks. So I don't get it. Sometimes the NFL is very confusing to me, and it's hard to understand when each team matches up on a week-to-week basis what we're going to see. But the Detroit Lions got absolutely crushed, destroyed, and humbled by the Baltimore Ravens. And everybody's shitting on the Lions right now, and it's a week-to-week business, and everybody's lost faith now. No matter what, Lions would lose one game, it's over, according to those on the Twitter box. All right, Washington loses to the New York Giants. I mean, this is a Washington team I've said in the past is going nowhere. Absolutely friggin' nowhere. Lose 14-7 to Tyrod Taylor and the New York Giants. How is this possible? You run and gun with the Philadelphia Eagles on the road, take them to overtime, and you go into Atlanta. I'm not saying Atlanta is any good, but you go in and you get a win over a team that you're probably a little bit better than. And then you go into New York and score 7 points. What the hell's going on? 7 goddamn points. Like Sam Howell, he's a sack machine. And if Ron Rivera was hanging his hat on keeping his NFL coaching hopes alive based on Sam Howell as your quarterback, that you just wrote your obituary as a coach. I don't know what you were thinking. He's an average at best quarterback that keeps on running around the pocket, getting hit, and your offense is going nowhere. Yeah, you'll get a game like he had against Philadelphia where, big drives down the field, but there's nothing consistent from this guy. You made a big mistake by hitching your wagon to this quarterback, and it's time to clean house in Washington. This ain't working. So Ron Rivera, I don't see you as a coach ever again in the NFL. You've taken Carolina to a Super Bowl. That's your peak, and you're going down the wrong side of the mountain, my friend. Rams and Steelers. I don't understand what the Steelers are. I mean, they go into games and lose in Houston and really can't put much together offensively. First half against the Rams here. The Rams are in control. The Rams are in control. And then if you see this all around the NFL, so many goddamn mistakes. So many goddamn mistakes that you'll never see that turn a game around. In this game, a missed field goal in the second half would have put the Rams up 10 points. 10 points. And you knew when they missed that field goal. By the way, Mahar has been released by the Rams. And they could tell this too. That changed the complexity of the entire game. Suddenly Kenny Pickett is prime Ben Roethlisberger out there throwing darts, big plays. And they suddenly got the run game going, the pass game going. The Rams can't stop anybody. Can't get, big penalties here and there. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Some of the situations that just don't add up to me when you're watching a game and a team just pisses away victories after victories. Just like I didn't throw on my page here the Indianapolis Colts who lost by a point against the Cleveland Browns. They pissed away that game. I don't know what Gardner Minshew and the turnover this team is doing at turnovers. They just pissed it away. Unbelievable. So those are some of the highlights, and then I didn't even write down, but the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers, that also was a piss-away game for the 49ers. Key fumbles in the red zone. Even Christian McCaffrey, the best in the world at his position. Fumbles, just a key moment. Penalties at the wrong time. Teams destroy themselves. And sometimes they're beating themselves. They're not even let the other team having to do the work to beat them, and it frustrates me to watch. Just the errors and mistakes and just the big time misses that happen, a drop ball here or there. I mean, God. Right. And I'll talk about the Sunday Nighter as well. Is that, the Philadelphia Eagles knocked off the Miami Dolphins, but there was a couple plays in there. Even Tyreek Hill dropped a few balls that should have, and a few penalty misses that could have turned that game the other way. So Miami loses, but I wouldn't, as a Miami fan, fear anything that they're on the decline. It's a loss. They move on. Now we go on to week 8 of the NFL, and I'm trying to, recover here. And I talked about last week obviously being pretty bad. We finished with a 4-9 record, which continues our season total at 105 total games bet, 56 wins, 48 losses. With one push, 53.8% winning percentage. We're still up there. Not a good week. We need to rebound this week, and I think we will. But just ugly, goddamn ugly. And I hate the NFL. I hate when I can't, win. So going into this week, I feel a little better. I don't think we have many teams on the injuries are pretty clear now, and maybe we know what we got. So I come into this week a lot more confident than I did last week. And I have a few plays here I like. I'm going to give you all the plays, but I'm going to give you my top 5 plays. We're going to look at my top 5 plays and reflect back next week. All right, so one of the top plays you're going to be surprised. Let's start with the Thursday nighter. Not one of my top plays, but I'm going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are an 8.5-point favorite at home. Thursday nighter, quick turnaround. Tampa Bay coming off a loss against Atlanta. Buffalo, obviously, as I talked about, coming off a big loss in New England. I say they win this game, but nothing's showing me that they are a team that I'll be confident in covering. Not one of my favorite bets, but I'll take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers staying and hanging around this game. The Bills eventually winning, but this might look more like a Giants game where the Bills, won it on, last defensive stand against the Giants. So let's go with Tampa Bay to cover 8.5. Here's one of my best bets, and I'm going to tell you why. Atlanta is a favorite, 2.5 points, Atlanta into Tennessee. Now, yes, Ryan Tannehill is questionable. He's been seen in either walking boot or cast, but he's not been ruled out. Malik Willis looks like he'll be the guy. It shows Bo Levi is out indefinitely, but I don't know if he is even optional here to start this game. But even with Malik Willis, it just seems like one of those games where an underperforming offense like the Atlanta Falcons that scraps by comes into a game against Tennessee where you have Arthur Smith coaching the Falcons and you have Mike Vrabel. And this seems like a scrappy game that a Mike Vrabel kind of team would, at home, really be in a better position. Really game planning against the second-year quarterback who's still showing a little immaturity back there under the helm. Running the ball, keeping control of the game where, last year Malik Willis was not good at all when having to throw or coming from behind. But I don't think we get there. I think Tennessee stays in control. I think they play field position. I think they play tight. I'll take Tennessee here. I'll take Tennessee straight up. So Tennessee is one of my value bets, and I will put my backing with Mike Vrabel, former Patriot, longtime head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He gets the job done. They squeeze out a victory, even if Ryan Tannehill is not ready to go. Houston, Carolina. Houston's -3. I have nothing much to say about this game, but Carolina's horrible. CJ Stroud's really really showing himself to be so far the better play here. He's the second overall pick. Obviously, Chase Young is the first overall pick. He's going to grow, but right now, nothing tells me that Carolina hangs in this game. Houston, -3. That's a good one. Not one of my favorites, but a really good one. Great matchup here. Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. Jacksonville on the road is a 2.5-point underdog. What do we got here? I don't know what Pittsburgh is. They come up with big plays, big turnovers. They got, Watt on the defensive side and Mika Fitzpatrick, who's a great player. I don't see Jacksonville turning the ball over as much here. I like Jacksonville to cover this 2.5-point spread. I like Jacksonville as one of my heavy favorites here. So take it. That is one of my Power 5. Jacksonville 2.5. Jacksonville 2.5 and that goddamn bum knee. And Trevor Lawrence, this guy is a walking miracle. All right. LA Rams and Dallas. This one's a hard one. What Dallas team? 6.5 points. What team's going to show up here? Ooh. Okay, I'm going to take Dallas 6.5. Obviously, you can hear I don't have the confidence that I did with the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to say Dallas covers the 6.5 because I believe we're going to see the team that showed up against the Chargers at home here against the Rams. The Rams are not as light. I think Stafford is like a sitting duck back there. He's a statue. He obviously can get on a roll, hitting Kupp and others. But I see the Dallas defense waking up at home, putting pressure on him. He's going to throw a few picks, and the Cowboys pull away. There's nothing special. That's what sucks about the Rams. There's nothing special. They're an average team. They're only 2 years out from their Super Bowl, and they're just plain average. They're a bore. There's nothing to them. Take the Cowboys 6.5. Look at this. Don't look now. The 3-4 Minnesota Vikings head into Green Bay as a 1.5 favorite. And you tell me why Green Bay is not a 5.5 point underdog. They can't score points. And I'll tell you right now, they can't score in the first half. Look back at their 7 games or whatever, 6 or 7 games so far. They do nothing in the first half. They've been effective running the ball, but they come up flat. And the second half, I give them credit. They come out and they adjust, but not enough. I think Minnesota's on a run here, and I think they're going to be 4-4 before we head into Week 9, and they're going to be back in the conversation about making a run here for the playoffs, and maybe even, depending on what happens with Detroit, making a run at the division. I told you, don't count these guys out. They're a regular season powerhouse because they can't do shit in the playoffs. But in the regular season, I like them as a 1.5. I think that's value. I think it's going to go up as the week progresses. So that's one of my heavy favorites here. Please, 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 if you like the Vikings, now is the time to take them. Do not wait and sit on this line because it's going to go up. And it's going to go up in the Minnesota Vikings' favor. Money's going to go there. New England, Miami. I feel very confident that New England's going to do nothing in Miami, in the heat in Miami. Miami's going to rebound, going to plaster the Patriots. I don't think they'll take the foot off the gas. Is Jalen Waddle going to be 100%? I don't know. He had a back issue, did return to the game against the Eagles. Tyrod Taylor. Tyreek Hill. He is amazing. He's such a difference maker. He's so fast. He gets open. He might. He's just amazing. Like I can't express the impact he makes on a football team. And I think he's going to run all over the New England Patriots after being held to 40 yards when they were up in New England. Not today, buddy. Not today. Not one of my best games. Confident. Dolphins 9.5. And did you hear the story that Bill Belichick quietly signed a contract extension in the offseason? He signed a contract extension, and it was reported over the weekend that nobody heard about until it came out. And how do you feel about that? I've been on here talking about I think it's time for Bill Belichick to move on. I've heard people say, what if he goes, where do you go? Well, every other team, has moved on, and not just shit teams. There's been some successful teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars picked up Doug Peterson. Successful so far. It's good. It's a change in focus. The Eagles moved on eventually from Andy Reid back in the day, which now has turned into be a success. There's teams that have done this. The world doesn't end if Bill Belichick is not there. And we're not just talking about, you're going to miss a successful, coaching game plan masterpiece that we've seen against the Bills. We're talking about he has the thumb on every piece of Patriot power out there. He controls the draft. He controls player personnel. He controls what happens on the field. And if he was going to, share or consult somebody that maybe had a different vision on how to build this team, it's not going to happen. But that's the only answer. We're talking about a major shift in a team that great. Hey, you won your second game. Fantastic. Now you're just in the middle of the pack again. Who cares? You have no direction. Mac Jones had a blip here of a great game against the Bills, and it's going to go all to shit against the Dolphins on Sunday. New Orleans takes on the Indianapolis Colts. Are you really going to watch this game? This is a red zone highlight game. I'm going to guarantee that it's going to be so many. There's going to be probably 6-7 turnovers total in the game. Gardner Minshew and the Colts over the last two, and not just him, but obviously the ground game as well, have been turning the ball over insanely in the same amount of times. 2 losses I can contribute against Jacksonville and also against the Cleveland Browns, a lot based on, turnovers. So I don't know what's going on there, especially early in the year when they go into Baltimore, play a solid game and win with Gardner Minshew. So I see a lot of turnover here, and I'm only going to stick with the Colts at 1.5 just because I don't trust the Saints, and especially on the road. And it could happen that the Saints are up 9-0 until the fourth quarter and choke it away, and the Colts score 2 touchdowns or something. But not going to watch this one. This is I have to take a pick. You're going to put the gun to my head. I'm going to say 1.5 for the Colts. They cover. Here's a good one. Battle in New York or battle in New Jersey because that's where they play. So the Jets travel to face the New York Giants. We have Barkley. Saquon Barkley's on the injury report. He's questionable with elbow. Don't know if that means he is likely to play or not, and I'm not hearing one way or another. Sauce Gardner, questionable for the Jets, concussion protocol. Where can you possibly like the Giants here? Jets, you have what their defense is going to try to shut down Tyrod Taylor. I mean, Tyrod Taylor has looked better than Daniel Jones, don't get me wrong. And probably is a better option because he actually throws the ball downfield. But the Jets are going to destroy Tyrod Taylor. The Jets are going to annihilate this Giants offense. I don't know if they're going to score 10 points in this game, but I know the Jets can score 13 points, and that's what they're going to aim to do. This is going to be a Breece Hall type of game, multiple carries, 160 yards, 70 yards. But the Jets get it done. I'll take them -3, no problem. Philadelphia, 6.5-point favorites heading to Washington. Here's the tricky matchup. Washington, with a couple exceptions here over the years, but tends to play the Eagles tough, usually, on the road. But 6.5 points. Washington looked terrible, like I talked about, against the Giants. But I think they wake up here and cover that 6.5. I'm taking my chances that Philadelphia, coming off a huge win over the Miami Dolphins in prime time, kind of have a deflated effort here in Washington in obviously a setback game where the Eagles get by, but they don't crush the Commanders in any way here. Now we hit the 4 o'clock hour. We hit the 4 p.m. games. We have Cleveland with Deshaun Watson still questionable at his shoulder, waiting in our MRI. He's not out necessarily. So P.J. Walker may get the start, so keep an eye on that. But Seattle is a 3-point favorite in this game, and I don't see any reason why not to go with Seattle here. Cleveland, they're okay. I mean, they've been playing well. They're getting wins. 49ers and Colts. So why would I take it? I just think they're going to run out of steam here. Seattle can move the ball enough at home. They got if they go up by a touchdown or multiple scores, and it forces Cleveland to chase. That's a problem to me, and I don't think they're going to turn the ball over as many times. They may turn over a little bit, but not to the level that the Colts were. Baltimore. This is one of my lock picks as well. Ravens are 8.5-point favorites over Arizona, and if we have any thought that the Ravens are the team that we seen against the Lions this weekend, and you can see that the Arizona Cardinals are on the decline. They're in games. They make a run. They put a fear in you if you got teams to cover. Like Seattle didn't have that game into control until later in the second half, but they eventually cover the spread, 10 points, and have the control. I don't see it changing here. I don't see Baltimore taking the foot off the gas that much. 8.5 points is low, and again, I think this is the total that will go up, and you'll see probably Baltimore -9.5. But maybe even this is where the time to take it. So Arizona is going to decline, and maybe hang in for a bit. But I think we see Baltimore easy in this game. 8.5, one of our locks. Cincinnati, big matchup here, heads into San Francisco. San Francisco 0-2 in their last 2 games. They have not looked good. That's, again, the 49ers look like they're unstoppable. Crushing the Cowboys. Crushing on both sides of the ball. Crushing multiple teams. And then they go into Cleveland and get banged up. Deebo Samuel on the leave. Obviously, McCaffrey having to leave. Trent Williams injured. He didn't play against the Vikings. And we're coming in here where Trent Williams is a big part of this offensive line. He doesn't look like he'll be back either. He's questionable. Not saying he's out, but keep an eye on that injury report. It's a big deal. Deebo Samuel looks like he's going to be out for a while. McCaffrey, is he 100%? I don't know. He looked pretty good against the Vikings despite that fumble. But the Bengals, 5.5-point underdogs. What do you think here? Are the Bengals really turned around? Are they back in form? Because let's look at the situation here. The Bengals have to throw the ball. They have to get the ball into the hands of Jamar Chase. Kirk Cousins was throwing all over the 49ers. And is there a hole there that the Bengals can exploit and Jamar Chase can exploit? Maybe there is. But I'll still hold with the 49ers who now are going to be at home. They'll make the adjustments, and I think they cover the 5.5. But again, if you like the 49ers, you may want to wait because I got to believe there's going to be money coming down on the Cincinnati Bengals. There's a lot of trash talking of Brock Purdy. Purdy now is garbage quarterback, guys. Just let you know, if you listen to the Colin Howards of the word on the herd, if you in your car and you listen to the radio, my problem with a guy like that is he has to have a take on a daily basis, and he has to have a take that grabs your attention. I get it; that's his job. But a lot of the takes and a lot of the things he says and how he's the expert are, BS. They're crap. It's garbage. And it's a hot take just to get clicks or get people to stay in tune after a commercial. So just heard him trash talking a little Brock Purdy there, but Brock Purdy, I think, rebounds, uses his weapons well, and they get past the Bengals on Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs heading to Denver. Denver coming off a big win against the Green Bay Packers, but is this the Denver Broncos that were in Kansas City 2 weeks ago and could not produce? Probably. I'm still not convinced that Russell Wilson is going to do much against this Kansas City defense and or having to chase even a Kansas City team that was not putting a lot of points up against the Denver Broncos in that Thursday nighter. But they covered the spread, the 10.5 point spread. They won by 11. And this is a 7.5 point spread. Yeah, I don't see the Denver Broncos at home. Yeah, but they're really going to cover 7.5 points. Do you really see an issue with Mahomes walking in and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift taking home a game that's 8 or more points? I don't. I'll take the Swifties, and I'll take the Chiefs, and I'll take them 7.5 points. They'll cover. Now, what a Sunday nighter we have. I don't know why they haven't flexed this game out. I thought they had a little more flexibility a little earlier in the season, but the Bears are into LA to take on the Chargers. Wow, I bet you're going to stay up to watch this one. Bears, 8.5 point underdogs. Tyson Bagent, quarterback, played a solid game against the Raiders. Raiders just self-destructed. But do you really see him coming into LA and taking out the Chargers? Maybe. The Chargers do not look good at all. They have the firepower. Justin Herbert is not progressing the way we thought he would progress this season. But do I think that they can take out the Bears? Yeah, I do. Do I think that Tyson Bagent's going to have a solid game? Not really. So look at the Chargers to cover 8.5 points. And I'm going to like that as one of my favorites as well. So that's my fifth and final hammer it kind of pick. So I like the Chargers 8.5 on the Sunday nighter. Leaving Las Vegas. I get that? Like that reference, kind of like the movie, and I'm leaving Las Vegas to the end as they visit Detroit, 8.5 point favorites. We don't know what's going on here at the quarterback position. Jimmy Garoppolo is still out, or is he? He's questionable with that back injury. I got to believe that if he can stand up, if he can hold a football, they'll put him back there because Brian Hoyer was a terrible decision. So it looks like Aiden O'Donnell will probably get the start against Detroit. But you got to believe that Detroit's got to send a message, right? 8.5 point underdogs. They got to smash the Vegas Raiders, especially if Garoppolo's not playing. There's no hope for the Vegas Raiders at all. I got to believe that the Raiders are wasting a talent like Josh Jacobs. How do you not use Josh Jacobs both in the backfield and obviously catching the ball out of the backfield against the Bears? And you couldn't find a game plan to make that happen? Like, disgusting. I don't understand it. I don't know what you're thinking. Last year, at least, when you handed him the ball and you got him in the game, he was all over the place, 100 plus total yards, and you're just pissing away his talent. So I hope he leaves Las Vegas, to be honest. He signed a 1-year deal. I hope he's gone and goes somewhere where they can utilize his talents the way they need to utilize them. Detroit, 8.5, no problem. That's a waste of time on a Monday night. You might as well watch wrestling that night and check out what's going on in the NHL or NBA, because I don't think you're going to see much pushback from the Raiders there. Anyway, that's the total outlook for the spread, so I'm just going to quickly go through it. And when you hear the word bam, that's going to be one of my top ones. So we have Tampa Bay covers 8.5 on Thursday against the Bills. The Atlanta Falcons falter and lose to the Tennessee Titans, who are 2.5-point underdogs. Bang, that's one of the favorites. Houston -3 over Carolina, no problem. Carolina's garbage. Jacksonville covers over Pittsburgh, 2.5. Bam, that's another favorite of mine. Number 2, LA Rams and Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to take the Cowboys and hope they're going to show up and be the team that wins by 7 instead of get blown out like sometimes happens with this team. It's inconsistent. Minnesota, 1.5-point favorites in Green Bay. Bam, take the Vikings, 1.5. That's favorite number 3. Miami covers 9.5 over at home against the New England Patriots. New Orleans Saints falter and suck against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts cover 1.5 points. Jets at home on the road, long road trip. -3 over the New York Giants. Philadelphia Eagles, 6.5-point favorites, don't cover against the Washington Commanders, even though I have no respect for the Commanders, but somehow they play Philly tough. 4 o'clock games, Cleveland does not cover the spread. Seattle covers that 3 that's on the board against them. Baltimore, bam, one of the top plays here, 8.5-point favorites over the Arizona Cardinals, who are on the decline and really, put up a good fight, but they decline pretty fast as you hit to the second half. Cincinnati visits San Francisco in a heavyweight fight, but I think Cincinnati does not come up with the same effort they have the last few weeks. San Francisco rebounds. They cover the 5.5. Kansas City on the road in Denver, 7.5-point favorites. I like the Kansas City Chiefs to stamp all over Russell Wilson. Let's ride. So they cover 7.5. And we like definitely on the Sunday night of the Bears visiting the Chargers. Bam, that's the 5th and final power play. That's one of our top plays. 8.5, they cover, no problem. Tyson Bagent. Well, have you ever heard of Tyson Bagent? I'm sure you have after last week. Will you forget about Tyson Bagent? You're probably right. You won't. You won't see much of him again. And then you have Las Vegas in Detroit on the Monday Nighter. They cannot get it done. The Detroit Lions smoke them. 8.5 is no problem. Now listen to my voice, listen to my picks, listen to my opinions. The pleasure, of course, has been all yours. The Overrated Experience is over and out, but before I go and leave you, please watch out for another episode this week. We'll talk about props, and we will talk about over and Andes. And please follow us again on social media, Overrated Experience. That's Overrated EXPR2. And you can follow the link on this episode in your favorite podcast provider. Have a nice evening. I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.